Okay, well, thank you everyone for taking the time out of your Friday afternoon to join Aaron and I. We have a very special guest here with us today, Mr. Aaron Knight of Geo Knight. Hi, Aaron. Thank you for joining us today. Aaron is the Vice President of Geo Knight, and I'm very impressed that Aaron took this interview with us today, and I'm very excited. His company is extremely successful. They ship equipment worldwide, not just within the United States, but they've been family owned and operated since 1885. So to get us a little started, Aaron, why don't you tell us a little bit about what's in your secret sauce that you've been able to successfully run a family business since 1885?
Sure, and I guess the first thing people would think is, well, that secret sauce is nepotism, but not the case, not the case. So I am distantly related, not ownership, but the company started in 1885 as a shoe company, the Brockton, Massachusetts, the whole 30-mile radius around there. We were making shoe machinery and clicker dies and cutting machines for stamping leather in the shoe industry, which was mostly in the Northeast. And then in the 60s, 70s, things started to transition overseas. We had to look for other things to do. And there was a natural transition. The carnies and the airbrush artists and the screen printers said, hey, we like your heated molding shoe press that molds leather and forms the heel and the toe. And we'd like to be able to airbrush our art onto a transfer paper or a wax paper, and then we could use those and press them very quickly at carnivals and shows and live events. And so the heat press was born, and we were the first ones in there making tons of presses for these events and for screen printers. And heat transfers just took off, especially with that famous 1970s Farrah Fawcett transfer that everybody had on their shirt, and it cracked and wore off, and pieces of Farrah would go flying off the shirt. But that was, that was kind of the signal at the beginning of the heat transfer industry. And since then, we've made just hundreds and hundreds of thousands of presses for worldwide for t-shirt shops and small mom and pops and big production facilities and big factories and everything in between. And it was all, our claim to fame since 1885. We're a 135-year-old startup company. Was quality and heavy duty machines and machines that last forever. That was kind of our shtick is, presses that don't need a lot of support, presses that are built like tanks, or as they say in the South, built like brick outhouses, but much better smelling and keep you warm in the winter. So that was our claim to fame, and we've concentrated on super good support presses that last a couple decades, a decade or so, not just years. That's a very important key to our equipment. And around the mid 90s, I came in and helped a big transition over to digital presses from the old 1980s analog versions, and helped with other things like that. And now we're just we had our biggest year last year, which was strange with all the COVID era stuff. To have the largest year ever, and that was a lot of which was pushback from against disposable equipment and disposable appliances from China, and all the stuff that comes in from there, which sometimes is not so durable goods when it's in the durable goods category. So that's kind of the brief history of the transition from that over, and a great company to work for, a very small manufacturer making things in the US. So it's a lot of fun when it works.
So you hit the nail on the head when you said that. I was going to next ask you, what do you think your secret sauce is? But I think I already know the answer to that, because I myself was recently shopping around for a heat press. Sure. I've been a financial advisor my entire career. I'm 39 now. And I just decided to switch careers because it's, literally 70-hour work weeks. It's very strenuous. The market is like an emotional roller coaster right now. Yeah. Everyone wants to take their money out and put it into cash, and maybe rightfully so. That kind of goes against all of our advice and principle, but I can understand where they're coming from in this, current given economy. But I would say that, me asking you what your secret sauce was, I think I already know the answer to that, because when I started to transition and I got, orders from friends and families to do t-shirts for their little leagues and bowling leagues, and for my cousin who owns a construction company, he wanted sweatshirts, hoodies, and all these things. I bought my first heat press, something that I would deem a bit more affordable, right? Because I was scared. I was like, I don't know how far this is going to go, or if I'm just sticking my toe in the water. And we were doing peel after peel after peel. And I have this Uninet iColor 560 printer. And as you know, you have to marry the A and B sheets together.
Very
And
sensitive.
It's very sensitive.
Yeah.
It's a huge learning curve, and they're expensive. A box of 100 sheets of A sheets and B sheets, it's probably over $240 just for 100 sheets total. So here we are going through sheet after sheet after sheet. Our first t-shirt for our first customer probably ended up costing me like $160 just to make that one t-shirt for her.
Wow.
She had a catering business. But what I quickly learned was it was the heat press. The plates weren't even heating up evenly. The heat wasn't being distributed evenly. And that's when I turned to the internet and started doing my research.
Yep.
I was down to a Geonite or an Air Fusion, Hotronix Air Fusion. And when I really started reading the details and descriptions and features of each machine with my husband, who's an industrial maintenance manager standing next to me alongside me, the minute he saw how your hot platens were designed, he said, "This is it. Don't look anymore. Don't wait anymore." So I'm now a very proud owner of a Geonite heat press, and I got the automatic. I got the K20 SP over here in the corner, and it's got that small air compressor underneath it. It's very quiet. We purchased the one that your office recommended.
Great.
And it's been working fabulously. So
that's an amazing jump to go from a disposable China type press to get started, to jump right into an air operated press with a nice silent compressor. It's very that's a classy step and a significant piece of equipment. Yeah.
Well, my frustration, it couldn't go on any longer. It was very emotional and frustrating to sit there and go through all those papers and still could not have made one t-shirt. And I said to myself, my mom always told me you get what you paid for. And I had to kind of just go back to the basics and say, okay, do I want to do this? And am I willing to invest? And so for anyone out there who's actually indeed, researching right now or thinking or wanting to upgrade and go to their next heat press, I would 100% absolutely recommend Geonite.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
The interesting thing that it seems like a lot of people really decided on or discovered or learned in the last 2 years, especially, which were our 2 biggest years ever, which made no sense whatsoever, is customers have a very strong sense, or Americans have a very strong sense now that not just that you get what you pay for. That's something that people have always understood. And that when you're buying a machine or something, a device or a tool, get a good tool, not a super cheap throwaway tool. But the new thing that everyone's discovered, the new piece of wisdom, is that cheap is very expensive. Cheap is very expensive. And you just laid out a great anecdote for that when you go very inexpensive or very low quality, it turns out that costs a lot. Long run, you have to keep buying the equipment over and over again, but also just in lost work or lost customers, which fortunately you didn't go through, it ends up meaning that cheap is too expensive. It costs too much. And a lot of people have voiced that concern. We get a lot of calls on a weekly basis. Hey, I know you can't take care of this because you don't have the parts, but how do we get out from under this? And how can you, so we offer different levels, not always straight up to the automatic press like you did, but the manual version of that is actually our most popular press. Same machine you have, but the manually clamping version still gets the same type of high pressure and good quality. So great story, very interesting, and good anecdote.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have a question that came in from a participant named Destiny. And Destiny is asking, for those starting up an apparel brand or thinking about it, what advice would you give?
Well, buy our press. I guess I'm fiduciarily responsible or required by law to say that. Look at quality equipment, and then the best advice I could give from our company's history since 1885 that I've learned how we've operated is if you answer the phone or answer emails same day, if you focus on same day response, same day service, and you really, really convince people that you're going to take care of them, and then you just stay on it until you do take care of them, people really like nice things.
Yeah.
People really like nice service or quality. People just love that. And if you can provide that sincerely or honestly, that's a great business piece of advice that applies across all businesses is people love nice things and answer the dang phone. Take care of the customer. What do they need to be happy? And also be ready to jump somewhere you weren't presenting. So one of our policy with custom machinery is never say no at the beginning. So as you get started, you could be pulled into some crazy place that you didn't want to go. Don't go kicking and screaming. And that might be where the money is. That might be where the thing is that no one else is doing. And so very open-minded to whatever the customer wants. The color of money is the same regardless of what job you're doing. Follow it to where it goes, and then you could end up in a really nice niche place. We've done that with some custom machinery with different industries we've been involved in, just because our policy at first was listen and just don't say no until you know you have to say no. And then no, I'm sorry, that's just totally not our wheelhouse, or we can't go that way now, or we don't have the equipment yet. But just don't say no in the beginning, and do everything you can to make customers happy. People like nice things, and people love responses. No big company calls people back anymore. Have you noticed that? No one calls back. Oh my gosh, here we are. We'll take all of that. Yeah.
Can I say something? I purchased my Uninet printer from a very well-known company. They're all over YouTube, and they're one of the bigger competitors who I guess they sell, I guess multiple pieces of machinery from different manufacturers. I'm not going to say their name, but when it came to the salesperson, they were speaking my language. They were all over me like white on rice, and they definitely understood. They understood the assignment, and they sold me on this machinery. But then afterwards, when I realized I took a big bite and I was having trouble chewing it and I needed some help, when I called them back, you know what they said to me? They said to me, you can purchase an instructional video series on Kajabi for an additional $995 after I just purchased this printer for $4,300.
Yeah, it's an expensive printer. So one thing that our policy is, and that gave us our biggest year last year, and I think is it kind of allowed us to trounce some of our competition. Not that I'm boasting, we have to stay humble, but all support should be generally free for first generation payers. If you bought it new, all support should be free. And your materials you came up with, that should be free. Or at least password protected so that only your paying customers gets it. I understand that, but charging for support for a warranted item, no, all of that should, that should be part of the price and part of the price of admission that they paid for a piece of equipment. Now, if it's an out of warranty product, if it's something used or from eBay or Facebook Marketplace,
right.
Our policy is still free support, but you have to pay for parts. You have to pay for parts. You avoided buying the equipment, but we're still going to support you directly at no charge and do the same day. But that's surprising to hear a company, that's selling a $4,000 printer, charging for videos that are electronically delivered and don't cost anything to deliver.
You would think they would want me to be happy with their product and to use it and to tell all my friends and family, especially after I just spent over $4,000 to purchase it. And so I struggled, and it was a tremendous learning curve, and I'm still learning along the way and wasting supplies as we're going. So one thing I can boast on is your customer support, because when I bought my piece of equipment and I needed assistance or had questions, I sent an email and I got a response right away. And can you remind me of the young woman's name who responded to me?
Well, if it was the young woman, it was either Susie or Janet, who,
I
they
believe
will
it
not
was
disclose
Susie.
their age. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and everyone here is like that. They're only young. We totally discriminate against old people. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, of course.
Well,
But
well,
we all have the same policy. You got to get back. And one of the reasons we reinforce that support policy isn't just because it's good business, but because they can't get home until we unlock the chain that locks to the radiator on the wall and their ankle. So that's the other reason they have to be that way.
yeah, that well, it works because she was amazing. I mean, she got back to me very quickly. She was very pleasant. Then I emailed her back. I was so excited at the service that I had received that I said, is there someone I can speak to about doing like a promotional, video so I can just tell everyone else so they can know
Wow.
and save themselves from the headache that I experience with purchasing the cheaper equipment, going through all these materials and supplies, and then being back to square one. I can't tell you the number of times I apologized to the woman with the pink balloon shirt, who was the caterer who just wanted a pink balloon shirt. I had to learn all about rasterization. And my husband said if he never sees a pink balloon again, then he'll be okay with that. And so
Oh, that's funny.
I never
That's funny.
apologized so much in my life. Okay. And
That's
it
too
was so
funny.
genuine and sincere. And, but she was a good sport. She was she was a local woman. She was very kind, but the thing I did, like you mentioned earlier, I constantly kept in communication with her and I was transparent. I never avoided her. She messaged me on Facebook Messenger and asked for status updates. I sent her pictures. I let her know. I showed her the pile of sheets of paper on
Ooh,
the floor where we were trying over and over again. And
yeah.
so you, my friend Erin, have hit the nail on the head, right? Like people just want honesty. They want transparency. They want to speak to a human being. They want customer support.
Even if it's
After,
by email, even if it's just email, as long as it's an actual
yeah.
response, that's good to go.
Absolutely. I mean, I got a chat box on this company's website and they told me that they would have someone call me back. And do you think anyone ever did?
No, no.
Absolutely not. And so my husband and I knew quickly we were on our own. And the Facebook support groups where it's like the blind leading the blind, those have been, more helpful and useful than the actual manufacturer's customer service department, which essentially is kind of non-existent because it's a chat bot. It's not even a live person who responds. It's like an automated bot type thing. So you guys have a good thing going. I think you figured it out. The more things change, the more they do stay the same, right? People just kind of want that human touch, especially in the customer service department. I cannot tell you how excited I was when I saw that this piece of machinery was solid metal. I mean, this thing was like, and then I also bought the rolling tray for it.
Mhm.
My husband and I were sitting on it and we were like wheeling each other around and we're like, this thing is amazing. It will never break. Like this will never give us any issue here. I don't care how much weight I put on this thing. It's never going to break. And, every time you order something from, IKEA or, any of those things, the quality it's always lacking, but I think they're trying to mass produce more for less and have that revenue profit margin increased. So that's what's happening here. We have about 10 minutes left.
Well, let's talk about the presses a little bit and we'll get into the equipment and then, or did you have any other questions you had in particular or?
No, I actually, I wanted to keep this conversation fluid. So I wanted you to be able to talk a little bit about whatever it was that was on your mind since you're the pro and we're here to listen. So yeah.
Yeah, well, it's a good segue talking about the equipment you bought. You got the air operated press and the swingaway. So you made a really big jump from, disposable, and that's our term for presses that are short term, China presses, all the way up to the top of the line, air operated automatic swingaway press that swings out to the side. And there's a lot of equipment in between that's just as popular or more popular. But generally, the thing customers want to understand is there's two major types of heat presses. There's the swing away that swings out to the side, and then there's the clamshell that opens straight up and down, kind of at an angle, like a clamshell. And so they decide between the two. The clamshell are more oriented toward portability. They don't swing out, so they take up much less space. They're a little more lighter duty or portable if you need to carry it around to events or do events with, whereas the swing away presses are much heavier. They're built more like tanks. They still swing super easy, just a couple fingers to swing them back and forth. And they take up a little more space, like I said, less portable oriented, but more oriented towards sublimation and thicker items and doing plaques and tiles and things that you need to have a perfectly parallel heater that swings out, but then comes down parallel to thicker materials. And then great for shirts and everything else. So there's swing away versus clamshell. And once you decide on which way you're going, you look at the pictures, you watch the videos on the website at heatpress.com. Go to heatpress.com, you see all the heat press info. Then you decide, well, do I want a manual or do I want to go, automatic, either semi, auto opening, or like yours where you're just pushing buttons and you're just dialing an exact PSI pressure. So that all your parameters, you don't have to think about it and you just push the button, and whether it's you pressing or your husband who may be a little bit stronger than you and had to help you with the offloading of that 200-pound crate, either way, they're pushing a button. It's very consistent results with the automatic. So you have manual, which is much more popular price-wise, and then the automatic, which is another $800 to $1,000.
And great safety feature that you just mentioned, by the way, because I have 3 little girls and my youngest is 11, but she's into everything.
Yeah.
And those heat presses get hot. They get really hot, right? And so for all the moms out there who are doing like their t-shirt gigs out of their home, and you've got little ones running around, the automated one that I purchased, Aaron, why don't you go ahead and tell them a little bit more about that safety feature where you have to press both the button?
Yeah, and that's kind of an OSHA thing. We would have a serious wrist slapping discipline actions by OSHA if we didn't have a twin hand activation safety feature. So that just means that both hands have to be pressing the buttons to activate the press, so that you don't have one hand inside the machine. There has to be a red e-stop button in case you get your head caught in there, even though there's like a 1-inch gap. So I don't know how that would happen, but you have to have an e-stop button to hit to release the press and open the press back up. So there's really nice safety features, so that, I mean, we've never had any history of any injuries on the presses in our 40-50 years of making presses, other than people just touching the platen, just like you touch your pan when you take it out of the oven and you say, why did I burn myself on the oven when I cooked my cookies? I knew that the tray was going to be hot and I touched it anyway. Other than that, it's very safe equipment. The swing away is nice because it's always face down. That's kind of a preferred thing for school systems and in public use or retail use, because the platen isn't kind of facing up at you to be able to touch. It's always face down. But yeah, the safety is a wonderful thing, even with the automatic equipment.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Go ahead. No, please.
But from there, just to go over the rest of, the heat press genre, after you deal with, do I get manual or automatic? Do I get swing away or do I get clamshell? There are the other categories of presses is large format. Large format is when 16 inches by 20 inches, which is the big normal size t-shirt press, is not enough. And you have these huge transfers, or you've got this wide format printer that's cranking out, really wide format art, and you're doing all over sublimation color or other things. You get into large format presses, and that's something we really specialize in. We kind of mostly we're the only game in town, unless you bring in the disposable stuff from overseas. So there's large format, and then specialty presses like a cap press or a mug press or a label press, really small heat platen, and so specialty machines. But basically, if it gets hot and it presses, we have something for you that we'll address with that. Lots of over glorified hand irons and automatic hand irons with digital controls.
I did purchase the longer platen, where it's made for like longer sleeve shirts or for potential
eggs and things.
Pants, like pant legs and things like that. And then I bought a smaller 6x8 one, because we wanted to be able to heat press our tag on the back of the t-shirts. We buy blanks and things like that. So
without pressing the whole thing. And that's the nice thing about the presses. You can actually get interchangeable tables, so that you're not limited to, pressing the whole darn thing when you just want to hit a specific area on the fabric.
Yes, and those have been working out fabulously too as well.
Great,
So
great.
we have about 4 minutes left, and we promised those who logged on and hung in there with us that we would have some freebies and some giveaways. We talked about Teflon sheets, the bottom Teflon wrap, Teflon top heater wrap with straps, and a digital temperature probe. So we have here with us today a young lady named Destiny, and then we have a gentleman named Mark. So for you two, for hanging in there for us, I apologize. I know there was some confusion with the YouTube live and the links got switched. So from the bottom of our hearts, we thank you for hanging in there and following along and keeping updated with this new link. If you, Destiny, and Mark could email me, I will make sure that we get those items out to you, because you guys were fabulous for hanging in there with us today. And Destiny, thank you for asking a question and being an active part of the conversation. So go ahead and feel free to email me at Crystal, that's CHRISTAL @REP GOON.com, and we will make sure that we get you guys your cool freebies for being a part of this conversation with us here today.
And Crystal, also, because this is mainly, actually being recorded to put up on YouTube afterwards, we should do something where the first 5 people to comment anything related to this on the video, we'll do Teflon wrap as well, because that's actually where this is going to be. We're not going to just do the first 2 that were on the live, but live is always live if you're watching it in real time. So first 5 comments on there, we'll do a Teflon wrap for them, for the major bulk of the watchers on YouTube. And I doubt that they're going to skip ahead to the end to see this and then go back to the beginning and start commenting when it's in there. So we'll be happy to do that. And you'll send us the info and we'll send it out to them.
Yes. And then one last thing that I would like to say is that if anyone has any questions about the Geonite heat presses, or is thinking about it and they know that it's a very large purchase, they're taking a leap of faith and they're trying to start up a t-shirt business, any stay-at-home moms or young entrepreneurs, and you have any questions, you can always email and reach out to me. Because I'm such a satisfied customer, I believe in spreading the word and getting the good stuff still out there while it still exists. Mark chimes in and is saying, thank you, Erin, for being manufactured in the United States and supporting, our employment, and keeping our economy, I guess, I don't want to say thriving at the moment, but, keeping our people employed. So that's really important for us too, not just shipping everything, overseas. So we really respect and appreciate that. And I can honestly, I align with Mark on that comment. So thank you for that, Mark. We appreciate that. Erin, was there anything else? I'll keep my eye on the comments, and I'll let you know who comments, and we'll get them their freebies as well. But is there anything else that we should know here?
Fire off emails asking questions. We love questions. We don't care about selling things. Send questions, and we're happy to answer anything you fire away at us. You can send it to Erin